Good evening. This is Vesta Copestakes on air with the Sonoma County Gazette. This program has been produced by C Media Labs, which is in Santa Rosa. It's a community media television station. And just so you know, on October 20th, there's a whole, what's it called? National Community Media Day. This is where people celebrate the fact that they can do this. Things like this, things like all the shows that are on C Media. Santa Rosa has a television program, a television station, this whole lab here at Santa Rosa JC to bring people's news, opinions, wonderful things that they create out for everybody to see and hear and experience. And so on October 20th, they're going to have a party right over here at C Media Labs at 1075 Mendocino Avenue, 1075 Mendocino Avenue, which is just next to the high school on Mendocino Avenue. And between 5:30 and 7:30, they're going to have all kinds of events going on. And basically the bottom line is they want you to know about what's going on. This is local access TV for people in the community, and this is Santa Rosa's version of it. So come celebrate with C Media. Now, I'm going to get into what is the main topic of the Sonoma County Gazette October edition. And as you know, it's election season. And very shortly, within a week, the ballots are going to be showing up in our mailboxes if you have signed up for that. And actually, I learned today that, you know the sample ballot that comes in the mail that we all sit on our kitchen table or take into our bathrooms and pour over all the things, and this is yes, and this is no, and these people don't agree with that one, and that one doesn't agree with that one, and then they go into what they don't agree with, what they don't agree with, and they go into great depth. It helps us, and it's in a print edition. But apparently, a lot of people aren't going to get it in the mail this year. They're going to be sent an email with a link to the document. Now, one of the reasons why that would be the case is because this is probably one of the fattest ones they've ever had to publish. There are so many initiatives, bills, people, you name it. It's a monster election. And it really is going to take some attention, that we're going to have to pay attention to what's going on and decide how to vote intelligently. One of the, here, let me show you the cover of the Gazette. So when you're wandering around and you happen to go see one of our newsstands, there it is, time to vote. Now, before I get into some of those details, I want to talk about why it's important to vote. And I always, right now, I can easily bring up the concept of the Bush-Gore election. Do you remember that? And so one of my delivery guys is very much into the third party system, and he goes, hey, we should have the third party and just on principle vote for the third party. Now, back in the Bush-Gore election, a lot of people voted for the third party because Ralph Nader was running, and a lot of people had a lot of faith in Ralph Nader. Now, it was enough to make it so it was a really, really tight race between Bush and Gore, and it had to go to the Supreme Court. And as we all know what happened, we ended up with George Bush as our president. And with George Bush as our president, we all went to war. We spent billions of dollars and hundreds and thousands of lives. Later, our country is in the biggest deficit we've ever had, and there are many, many people who have suffered all across the planet. They've lost people they love. Their bodies have been destroyed. Their economies have been destroyed. You really have to think about what you're doing when you vote. And so there are some people who go, oh, I'm just not going to vote. I can't figure out what to do. I hate Hillary and I hate Trump, and what am I going to do about that? And that's the national issue. And you can hate them both, but one of them is going to be president. Don't you want to be part of the process and be part of the decision-making process and have some say? And one of the backups of that I do all the time is that people have fought really hard for our right to vote. Going way back in history, there was times when they're kings and queens, right? And dictators. Imagine all the societies that are dictators, and someone else tells you how to run your life and how to run the economy, and everything about your country is run by one person's opinion. And then there's the kings and queens, and my gosh, you have to be born into that one. You don't get a chance to even fight your way to the top. It's simply done for you. Well, in all these democracies around the planet, the thing that we love, and I think it's not exactly democracy means chaos, but it's a chaotic system. But it's a good system because it means that we have some say in it. And so whether it's a proposition or a local city council person or the president of the United States, we have some say in what's going on in the government and how our government is run. Now, one of the things I want to get into, maybe the main thing I want to get into here tonight, because I can talk about who I have endorsed for 5th District candidate, because that's in the Gazette. Ta-da, page 8. And then we have things like Measure J and Measure K that are on the cover of the Gazette. Measure J being our Parks Initiative, Measure K being our community separators, which is really important. And also C Media here has done a little show, an interview with Terry Shore on Measure K and with Carol Hart of Regional Parks on Measure J. There's another one, Measure M, coming up, which is the GMO initiative. And personally, I'm very, very supportive of banning GMOs in Sonoma County. I think it's essential to the future of our economy, as well as the safety and health of our agricultural products. All across the planet, countries, entire countries and economies are saying they will not buy products that have anything to do with GMOs, any genetically modified organisms in the product itself. They feel it's either unsafe or it's whatever. They've got a lot of reasons, the poisonous aspects, the unsafe aspects, that we don't know what's going to happen to our body aspects. There's a lot to it. But when you get down to the basics of economy, if we allow GMOs into Sonoma County, we will never be able to go back. It's not like you stop using Roundup, which we hope someday we'll stop using Roundup, because it's definitely a major poison. But beyond that, once you allow GMOs into an area, it's literally on pollen, it's carried by birds, it's carried by air, it integrates with every living thing, and you can't go back. Once reproduction occurs with these genetically modified organisms and the pollen, etc., from them, you can't go back. So we have a chance to stop it right now and just say, no, we don't want to do this. And to our north, Mendocino County has banned it. To our south, Marin County has banned it. And so why not we just slip ourselves in the middle and ban it as well? So there's my great old speech on GMOs. But I'm going to get into the concept of elections and running for election. One of the reasons why I endorsed one candidate in the 5th District, which I endorsed Linda Hopkins, and she's the young girl. She's the young woman. She's 33, a mother of 2, a professional farmer, former journalist, investigative reporter, environmental scientist, land use planner, any number of things. She's incredibly brilliant. But what I especially like about her is that she's running a very value-oriented campaign. It's being very inclusive. It's about us. And she's not doing us versus them. She's doing us and us with them, us with everybody is all in this together. That's one of my favorite phrases. We're all in this together. So you get a campaign that's talking about how we work together in concert with each other and how we can accomplish great things together. And if we work together in harmony with each other, if we take people who we don't agree with and we say, so what can we do to come to consensus? Consensus basically means we're both making compromises. You're at your side of the spectrum and I'm at my side of the spectrum, and we're going to come into the middle. Because when we come into the middle, we're no longer fighting against each other. We actually get to make forward motion. I love forward motion. You'll see that a lot of times in politics and other aspects of our world, our economy, business, you name it, people are in such competition with each other that they lose the sight of the goal. And the goal is forward motion. And so that's one of the things that I like to see. And if it's possible, and I'm hoping that someday people will think to do things differently, that instead of fighting your opponent, you look at the similarities you have with your opponent and you talk about the issues instead of talking about, well, this person did that and that person's likely to do that, and all those negative things. What if you just talk about the issues? How many times have people said, gosh, I wish the candidates would talk about the issues? I mean, let's look at the national politics. I mean, seriously, do we really need to keep talking about Hillary's emails? I mean, hello? What about the issues? What about family? What about children? What about education? What about environment? What about all the things we really, really care about? How are we going to make some forward motion in all of these topics? So the more time we spend putting someone down or making assumptions about someone, the more we're taking the energy we could be using to make our world a better place and wasting it, absolutely wasting it. And it's not just a waste, it's literally going backwards. So I decided there's this term called political PTSD. One of the phrases that comes up is, it's always been done that way. So we're going to do it that way because it's always been done that way. And you just bet things are going to happen like that. You just know it's going to happen like that. They're going to come out and they're going to attack me. So it's just, okay, here's the analogy I use. my boyfriend is going to break up with me. I just know he's going to break up with me. So I'm going to break up with him first. So it's the same thing. That opponent of mine is going to come out and attack me. Well, I'm not going to wait for that opponent to attack me. I'm going to attack that opponent first, you know? And it's like, oh my God, get a grip. So my big thing is always, I come back to, it was literally a fantasy novel. And it was all about two tribes who had always been against each other since the beginning of the time. It's like the Israelis and the Arabs, the Jews and the Muslims, the Serbs and the Croats, the Catholics and the Protestants. You go back into generations and generations and generations of time, and people hate each other. And then they say, well, your grandfather hurt my grandfather. And it's like, oh, seriously, what's that got to do with now? Right? So in this one fantasy story, this one tribe was going against this other tribe, and they were going, oh, you got to fight them, you got to fight them. And they were going, and the leader, he was a young man, and I love this. See, young people. This young man said, I don't want to do this anymore. We've lost too many people we love. We've hurt everything about our lives and our tribes and our home, and we've shed too much blood. He said, this system of always vengeance against what was done to us is got to end. And he says, it's going to end with me. And that's a phrase I absolutely love. It's going to end with me. And so that's one of the things, the main reason, aside from intelligence and brilliance and all the rest of it, that I have endorsed Linda Hopkins for 5th District Supervisor, because she's running a clean campaign. She always brings up the issues that we're facing, that potential solutions to the issues. She's always asking us questions, not just telling us what she's going to do or what she has done, because obviously in the last 10 years she's been a journalist and an educator and an organic farmer and all the rest of it. So she hasn't run for politics before. There is a quality individual, someone with intelligence, someone who hasn't been hurt too bad but is definitely getting scarred now. And can she hold up against the attacks? And so far, I have seen her holding up really well, because she's holding her values close to her heart. And she's being an example of a person who allows vulnerability. That's one of the things I absolutely love. A lot of people who become politicians, they start getting what is called a hard outer shell, a hard back. They have all kinds of terms for creating a protection, a hard surface around you so you don't feel the blows of attacks. Well, what happens when you do that is you have such a hard outer shell around you. You also can't feel the sensitivities of things you need to feel. There's a certain strength in being vulnerable, a strength in being open and accessible to people, to issues. When your heart can feel the pain of someone else's pain, it inspires you in a way to do things. It's no longer intellectual. There's a concept of, well, when you get back to unconditional love. What is unconditional love? A lot of people go, oh yeah, it means I love you no matter what, right? You don't actually know what that is until you've felt it and lived it. And the example in my own life is being a mother. I knew unconditional love. I said, unconditional love, it's loving for who you are. And there is always exceptions to that, isn't there? Well, then when you become a mother, it's interesting, because you really do love someone for who they are, in spite of everything. And if there's anybody who's going to destroy your self-esteem, break your heart, it's your child. So you learn the depth of unconditional love. And it's very much the same of being a politician or a public servant, or in any way serving the public or serving people. Like if you're going out to serve a nonprofit organization, there's a group of people out there, children especially. Oh my God, if there's anything that's going to touch your heart, it's children. They're all so innocent. And so when you're vulnerable to feeling the pain and the joy, then you can actually do something worthwhile. So what I would love to see in politics is that people don't put a hard shell around themselves, don't just approach a subject intellectually, that they allow themselves emotional vulnerability and emotional connection to whatever the subject is. I mean, you can tell kids is easy. Oh my God, you see a child and you think, innocent, innocent. What can I do to protect that child from becoming cynical, from being hurt, from any number of harms that can come to a child, that basically come to just about every child that's out there, especially girls. And how can you protect and yet still, and protect yourself and yet still be vulnerable. And part of the reason, the way I believe that people can do this is being true to their value system, that it's not just intellectual, that it's how you live your very life. So one of the things I said in my endorsement is that my great wish for this planet is that everybody would live by the golden rule. That is, treat others as you wish to be treated. Now you have to be pretty conscious to do that. You have to think before you act. You have to think before you open your mouth. Now wouldn't it be delightful if politicians thought that way as well? Before attacking, before assuming, before being cruel, literally cruel to another person, ripping apart their integrity, what about if you just trust who they are? What about if you just open your mind and your heart to this individual and know that that's a person? If we changed our political system to not have the cruelty of elections and the way elections are run, do you think we could get better people to run? Do you know that there are extremely wonderful people who want to serve us in the role in government? But what they have to face, what is the thing in colleges? I can't remember what it's called, fraternities and sororities. It kind of goes back in decades. I don't even know if they still have them. But they always had an initiation thing, which was phenomenally cruel. And when I was a kid, it was like literally some people died from it. And there's rules and regs around it that you can't do that anymore, the cruelty of it all. But the whole thing is to go through a gauntlet to get to the other side. And if you made it through the gauntlet, you could be in part of that sorority. It's the same thing in politics. If you can make it through the election process, you get to win the election and serve. Oh, come on. What if you don't torture the people? What if everybody was kind to each other and respectful of each other and didn't make nasty assumptions like, oh, they're taking money from that so-and-so, so you know they're going to be beholden forever to that so-and-so forever, and they're going to have to vote in that so-and-so's direction. They don't even have a mind of their own. What happened to the person who up until that moment they decided to run had a mind of her own and always stuck with her mind? And then all of a sudden, now that she's a politician, she's not going to have a mind of her own. Seriously, isn't that a negative assumption? Isn't that an assumption about the integrity of this individual? Isn't that something that could discourage someone from running? Now, what I see right now is we've got 30 days, basically, a little less than 30 days until we fill out our ballots and we decide who's going to run and who's going to be serving us. And if we looked at every candidate on the ballot and looked at who that person is and treated that person with integrity and with honor and with respect and looked at all the things that they've accomplished in their lives, what I look at is core values. How does a person conduct themselves in their life? What do they do with their day? Do they volunteer? Do they go out there and they do things for other people? Do they get to a crosswalk and help someone cross with their bags? I mean, do they help old ladies get across puddles? Whatever. Do they protect children? Do they feed people? When they're out on the street and they see someone hungry, do they help them feed that person? What does a person do in their daily lives that gives to others, that shows that they're part of the community of all of us, that we're all in this together? That's the values I'm looking for in my politicians. And that's the values I'm looking for in the people who serve us. And then that's also how I look at the initiatives that are out there. Are some of these initiatives here to serve us all? It's one of the reasons why I'm supporting Measure M, the GMO initiative, because I believe it serves us all into the future, which I love, not just now. I like Measure K because it serves us now and into the future, the thing that we have used to protect ourselves and keep Sonoma County beautiful and wonderful and astoundingly pleasant place to live as well as visit. We get to continue for the next 20 years. Measure J, 50 cents on $100 on a tax that's out in the unincorporated areas so we can expand our park system. Our park systems are astonishing. If you live in a housing development or you live in an apartment complex or you're surrounded by concrete all the time, you want to get out. You want to breathe the trees. You want to feel the air. You want to do something that softens your soul. And I just touched my microphone. You do want to do something that softens your soul. So you want to vote for parks. Some of these things, they seem so obvious to me and so beneficial to all of our society and to all of us, that they expand the treat others as you wish to be treated. I want to give my children and my grandchildren and every child a better education, a sense of you're cherished. Oh my God, if every person grew up feeling that they were cherished, how different this world would be. If when somebody said, you're a turkey, and before they said, you're a turkey, you're a fool, you're a this, they stopped and said, how would I feel if someone said that to me? What would that do to my self-esteem? And didn't do it? What if someone raised their hand to hit somebody and they said, oh, wait a minute, someone could hit me. I don't like to be hit. And they didn't hit the person? I mean, you could take it across the board. If you treat others as you wish to be treated, whether it's politics, whether it's your daily life, whether it's how you stand in the line at the grocery store, if you show kindness to others, can we take this across the board? Can every person, even when they're voting, even when they're discussing political issues, even when they're saying, I don't like your candidate, but I like mine, can you show some respect for each other? Can you show some kindness? Can you think about how we really, really want the world to be a better place? So that's my big mission. And I don't want it to be a lecture. I'd like to be an inspiration. My big thing is always to inspire people to get involved in community life. So you'll see it all over the place in the Gazette. Please visit my website, SonomaCountyGazette.com, and also on our Facebook page. God, sometimes the discussions get a little heated. But again, it's freedom of speech. And so one of the things that I've done with these elections is I've had candidate forums, something I've never done before. We had one last night in Roseland, and it was hosted, well, actually I hosted, but it was moderated by Dwayne DeWitt, who is our Roseland Review columnist, that's what he calls it. And he's so committed to his community, it's beautiful. And it was 1 hour of people bringing up their concerns for Roseland to the candidates who are running for the district that controls, or that basically oversees Roseland, the 5th district in Sonoma County Board of Supervisors. And how wonderful that these people care so much about their home, they come out and they get involved and they ask questions. And that's what I would hope for everyone, that everyone thinks about their home and cherishes their home and protects their home and looks at their neighbor with love. You know, honest to God, love in your heart, that everybody looks at each other the way they want someone to look at them, with kindness, with respect. It's a sweet and wonderful thing. Does that mean 5 seconds or 5 minutes? 5 minutes. There it goes, Marlo. See, I can talk about any subject at all. So I will just get off of that little subject now and move on to what's going on in the next month or two. We're heading into the holidays. And so one of the things the Gazette does every year is I have my Small Shops of Sonoma County guide to shopping at locally owned stores. Now, I've been doing this for 14 years. And I meet incredibly wonderful people. So there's times when I can't get out on the streets. I mean, literally, I was out delivering the Gazette to downtown Santa Rosa because one of our delivery guys, the guy who does downtown Santa Rosa, got hit by a car while he was delivering the paper. This lady put her foot on the gas pedal in reverse instead of forward and ran right into him. Now, fortunately, he only broke a rib. That was really good. But he couldn't deliver the paper last month, so I delivered the paper. So there I am wandering around looking for parking spaces, and I get hung up. I'm looking indoors and going, wow, I don't know this shop. Look at that. That person makes the most beautiful purses. I went into the store called She, and it was, oh my goodness, the clothes in there. I was like, I got to go back. And I really don't shop. So because I don't shop, I don't know where these places are. So it's purely by accident that I run into them. So I would like, if you know a shop owner, it's got to be something locally owned, a shop that's locally owned, that's different from the other ones, that's especially creative or especially interesting, or carries handmade products, or carries products of true value. When you give a gift, I mean, my favorite gift is time. So just understand that the thing that I think is the most valuable gift in the world is a piece of your life, because it's finite. Let me tell you, when you get old, you realize how finite it is. When you give a piece of your life to someone else, you've given them literally a percentage of your time on earth. So, you know a little cafe to go take someone out to lunch or dinner? Do you know a little shop where the shopkeeper is especially kind and wonderful, and you want to give that person a little boost? Do you know some products that someone is making, and maybe they're at a craft fair and that's the only place you can get the product that they're making? Tell me about it. On my website, SonomaCountyGazette.com, you can see my email address, vesta@sonic.net. That's VESTA at sonic, SONIC.net. And you can email me and tell me who these people are. And if you really want to do yourself me a favor, and your friend, whoever this person is, or the shopkeeper, write up a little story about them. And maybe even take some pictures. There's even cell phones can take some really good pictures, or I'll go back out and take it myself. But I can put this in my small shops of Sonoma County, and I do need people to help me find all of the shops because it's a big county. I don't know how many square miles we are, but it's big enough, and I'm a busy enough person. It's hard for me to get out and take all these pictures and meet all these people. So what I'm calling my theme of these small shops of Sonoma County this year is New Discoveries and Old Friends. New discoveries are the ones that I'm finding out about, the ones that you're going to tell me about, and then my old friends are ones who I've known for a long time, and they're good people. I'll tell you the little tale about how I started doing this is when I first started delivering the paper by myself out into newsstands, and I would go in and out of shops and hand my paper to people and say, hey, this is my paper. And some people were like, oh, how cool is that? Thank you. And other people would go, I don't want that. Don't bring that here. And I thought, ooh, there are nice people and there are not so nice people. So the first issue of my small shops of Sonoma County, I talked about all the nice people. I said, I want you to go in and meet this incredibly nice shop owner. This person is kind. This person hires good people. Da-da-da-da-da. So I only talk about the good people. Again, treat others as you wish to be treated, right? You treat me nice, I treat you nice too. So I bring people all over Sonoma County. So we all go into all the little shops and all the little people who are making our economy run. Do you know that the vast majority of businesses in our economy are small businesses, and that every business that is considered a small business is under 50 employees? Now, most of them are 1, 2, 3, 4, not many people. And those are the people who I'd like you to support. So that is my December edition, and some of my November edition coming up, which will be coming out October 26th. And then November 23rd is my December edition coming out before the great Black Friday and all that stuff. So please get out there, get to know your people, vote, 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 vote. And please support Sonoma County in every way you possibly can. And remember the golden rule, treat others as you wish to be treated. I appreciate you being my readers, and I appreciate you listening to the show, and I appreciate C Media. So if you want to come party with C Media, October 20th, 5:30 to 7:30, 1075 Santa Rosa Avenue, next to the high school, just down the road from the JC. Come meet the people who create community media, who bring the community to your television. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your attention span.